Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy show. My name is Hassani, and this morning I have sitting next to me the illustrious Jewel Smith. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, good morning. It's been a while, I missed it.
You missed it?
I missed it.
But you're here. You're here. You're back in 2023. You ready to get it?
I'm ready to get it. Let's get it.
Listen, we want to thank you all for tuning in. Let us know what city, state, and country you are coming in, dialing in, tuning in from, because we want to acknowledge you. Couple quick announcements really quickly. February the 10th through the 12th, you know it's the last chance weekend. Go ahead and get registered. January the 30th, that's just a week away. Unearth, the 12-week program. It is here. It is going to be incredible. Listen, if you haven't downloaded the app, go ahead and do that, because that allows you to stay connected to what it is that we're doing. And make sure you take the time to like, share, and subscribe to the show. We want to make sure that your community is finding out about what it is that we're doing, so that they can tune in, so their lives can be changed and transformed as well. I'm excited today because we're talking about a great topic. We're talking about something that is super duper important. And so the topic is, you cheated, and sorry just isn't enough. Hold on, watch this.
I'm sorry. I've been an idiot.
I'm so sorry.
I'm really sorry.
For whatever it's worth, you were right and I was wrong. Sorry.
I'm so sorry, I don't even know what to say to you.
I'm very, very sorry you were put through this.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Deeks. I'm really sorry about all this, man.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for you.
I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry for what I am.
I'm sorry, Danny.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm terribly sorry.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Sorry ain't enough.
I said I was sorry. I meant it.
I said I was sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, sir.
I'm sorry, I made a bad mistake.
I'm sorry we quarreled.
Come on. We're sorry, okay?
I'm so sorry.
So sorry about the old bag.
Sorry. Please forgive me.
No, that's it. I'm sorry.
That was a pretty nice apology.
You know what? I'm sorry, Jewel. I'm sorry, but we use this word so casually.
Yes, we do.
And sometimes your sorries. You know what? I wish I played the video clip from For Color Girls. Remember when Janet Jackson?
I'm sorry.
She was sitting on one edge of the bed, and her undercover husband was sitting on the other, and she exposed him. And he was just like, "I'm sorry," and she was just like, "I'm sick of your sorries. You're sorry. You've been saying sorry from the very beginning." And for a lot of people, a sorry is not enough. It doesn't do anything.
Exactly. And I think in the clip, Homer Simpson was the only one that said, "I'm sorry, please forgive me."
Please forgive me, right?
Everything else is just, "I'm sorry."
It's a big word. It can mean a lot, or it can mean absolutely nothing. But oftentimes, if all you have are words and it's not backed up by actions or change or transformation, then that's all it is a word. And it hits the ceiling and comes back down. It doesn't resonate. Your spouse or partner doesn't receive it. And it just doesn't do anything to change the situation.
It's amazing how people use it just so freely.
Yeah.
And there's no meaning behind it, but yet they expect for you to forgive them for whatever wrongs that was done.
Right.
So what's the purpose?
That's right. And an apology is really only the start of a process. Like, of course, those words are important, because at least you're acknowledging, something that you've done wrong, hopefully. And your apology or your sorry is attached to a specific behavior or action that you're identifying. So it's the beginning of the process, not the process within itself. And so if you aren't aware of the anatomy of an apology and what actually makes it work, you're going to have problems in your relationship.
Exactly. And then the bad part is some people even know. They know that there is more than just, "I'm sorry." But yet they choose to just not want to take that extra step and really dive into what that apology is supposed to mean, because they don't want to change.
And like when you apologize, you may feel better about your situation because you got it off your chest and fine, I'm sorry, right? But it could leave your partner still feeling disillusioned. because if you think that's all you need to do to move on, you're highly mistaken. And so they're still trapped in their pain. They're still stuck. They're not able to move forward because they're suffering the blow of whatever it is that you've done that was a violation in the relationship. And check it out, folks. It's not just the major betrayals that we typically talk about on this show, but it's the daily things that you do. I think you were sharing some statistics, before we started the show about people who apologize and how often they do it. Like, break that down.
People apologize at least, the minimum is 8 times a day with an upward of 20 times a day.
Wow.
8 times, even as a minimum, but to an upward of 20 times a day, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
And even if you take the minimum, that's 56 apologies a week.
Wow. What kind of things are we apologizing for that many times?
That's any and everything. Literally, that's just any and everything. It could be something small to something big, but it's just the fact that you find the need to do something and still just say, I'm sorry. But apparently, if you're doing it that much, you're not changing the behavior. You're not making the change.
And I think that's a good point. If you find yourself constantly apologizing for the same thing again and again and again, it means less every time you do it. I remember, when Danielle and I were in the worst of our situation, I was quick to say I'm sorry, but I was apologizing for the same stuff and it meant nothing. And so she was just like, I don't keep your apologies. Like, they don't mean anything, because all you do, you think the quick resolution is I'm sorry and the problem goes away, but the problem still existed. And it wasn't until I began to do some serious work in particular areas did she actually accept my apology, because she knew that I was a work in progress. She gave me grace to change and transform because she saw me doing something. So if you just offering up words, if you're articulating without demonstrating, it's worthless.
Do you realize that the more you say you're sorry, that when you are really, really sorry and that apology is really sincere and that person does not believe you, then what? And whose fault is it at that point in time?
Now, that's a good point, Jewel, because a lot of people genuinely feel like they're sorry and remorseful for what is done, but their spouse just doesn't accept it. Man, that's a whole nother part 2 or part 3 that we can dive into. But there is reason for that. Like, first of all, this is what I say. Both of you bear some responsibility in that situation you just brought up. Because if I'm saying sorry and I don't have behaviors that reflect that I've actually I'm sorry and I'm willing to change, then of course they won't believe it. But there's so many people who think about it. If I have for years violated you in any particular way, and now I have a moment of clarity and I'm sorry, you may struggle to believe it and you may struggle to accept it and move on because you've been dealing with years of a behavior. And so now you come with some apology and I'm just supposed to let it go. They have their process as well, but some choose to remain stuck and not forgive because they're believing it's going to happen again anyway. So why open up my heart? Why be vulnerable? Why offer you forgiveness if I'm just going to be dealing with this for the rest of our days?
But also, on the other hand, is how many apologies are you going to take before you set your own boundaries as far as what the consequences are? If there's no consequences to whatever the action is, and you still allow them to keep doing it and saying I'm sorry.
But now you're getting on dangerous footing, because now you're talking about having a reward and punishment system within your relationship, which is what we've talked about. But it's funny because most people don't know what an adequate punishment should be. Some people have had the spirit of vigilantism and have resorted to all types of unhealthy things as a way of executing punishment on their partner, right? So, but I do believe that there should be some form of punishment and reward for all the things that we do. Because if we don't have it, then what's going to keep you from doing the wrong thing again and again and again? I mean, the fear of going to jail keeps me from driving 90 miles an hour in a school zone. Like, I know what's going to happen if I do that and get caught. So the consequence is enough to curb my behavior. And if there aren't consequences, if you will, in relationships, then I have free game and free right to do whatever I want to do.
I agree. Most definitely.
Anyway, guys, we're talking about an apology not being enough. What we're going to do is go to a quick commercial break, and then we're going to walk through the steps that are necessary to attach to your I'm sorry so that your spouse can receive it and you're actually able to heal and move forward. Stay right there. You're watching the Couples Academy show. Just a second.
We're really excited about Foundation. It is a new group program where couples are gathering from all around the world twice a week, couples who just want to have a thriving, successful, amazing marriage. No really well-built house is built without a foundation. As a matter of fact, without a foundation, it can't stand. It would just crumble right into the ground. We are going to interview experts and other successful couples so that you can get a glimpse into the lives of other people who are doing what it is that you desire to do, who have and who are accomplishing what it is that you want to accomplish. And we also have over 500 videos available for you to watch of all of our teaching. Everything that we've ever done, every topic that we've ever covered will be accessible to you.
So guys, if this sounds exciting to you and if this sounds like something you've been waiting for, go ahead and just give it a try. We're literally giving away a 15-day trial for $1. And then after that, it's simply $3 a day. And so, is your marriage worth it? Is your future worth it? Join the community today. Just click that button and meet us on the other side. Well, you're watching the Couples Academy show. We're happy that you are tuning in this morning for this important conversation. We're talking about, you know what, you cheated. And sorry just isn't. Why am I stuttering, mumbling, and fumbling?
It just isn't good enough.
Am I struggling to say I'm sorry? And that's why I'm stumbling over this title. But it's just not good enough. I need something more. And so we're going to talk about what that more looks like. So if you're the offender, and if you are the one who needs to offer up a genuine apology that resonates with your partner, these are the things that you must do. Number one, let's go to it. You got to make sense of what happened. You have to replay the incident and find clarity. At the end of the day, if I say, I'm sorry, and Danielle's quick to be like, well, what are you saying I'm sorry for? What are you apologizing for? Exactly. Are you just saying it just to move forward, or did you take time to think and reflect about what you actually did? Because I need to hear what it was for. And if you can't put together a well-crafted narrative of why you're doing it, rejected, not accepted. And so you really want to give thought to it. Like, look at yourself. It's almost like a mirror exercise. Like, as I reevaluate what was done, yeah, I did have a tone. Yeah, I was kind of harsh. Yeah, I didn't give thought to. Yeah, I was operating from a dark heart when I did such and such and such and such. And now I understand the error of my ways. Mm-hmm. And so it's not just a I'm sorry, but it comes with an explanation, if you will. Why are you sorry?
You do know that if there's no explanation, then 9 times out of 10, that sorry is just to appease you.
That is. And that's why we said it makes the person who offers it feels good, but it still leaves the other person disillusioned,
exactly,
frustrated, disappointed, and it's just like, this is not working.
Mm-hmm.
This is not working. So you got to be able to evaluate and articulate what you're sorry about. All right, let's go to the second one.
Facing your feelings, good or bad, denying them helps no one. So if you have to say, I'm sorry, and you really mean it, and you want your spouse to understand that you didn't mean it, you have to face the fact that this is going to hurt. Because you staying in denial doesn't help anyone. Excuse me. You feeling though that there's there's a feeling and I can't articulate it, so I'm just not going to say it.
Mm-hmm.
Who is that helping? Who's benefiting from it? So if it's good or bad, you need to just own it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of internal feelings that we carry, and being able to properly process it. And then also understand the feeling that your partner is carrying, the one who's offended. That allows for that emotional connection. That allows for some sense of compassion that you offer one another. And so if we're going to truly have a heart-to-heart connection, which is an emotional connection, I've got to be able to process those feelings and emotions, which are critically important, because there's some people who only operate from the head, like they're very logical and they don't have any feeling. And so even when they apologize, it's just like, I didn't even feel that. Like, it didn't feel sincere. It felt very top of mind. It felt very checking the box and just going through the motions. But there's no heart in it. So evaluating those feelings, good or bad, I think, to your point, Joe, are critically important. Let's go to the next one. You've got to stand in the other person's shoes. Really try and understand why they feel hurt. Like, because at the end of the day, like, I'm sorry, like, golly, is it all that? Is it that bad? We have a tendency of minimizing what the impact may be, because if it happened to us, maybe we wouldn't take it so hard. Maybe we wouldn't be as offended. And oftentimes we project our own feelings, thoughts, and perspectives on other people. So listen, you should feel like this because this is how I would feel, but you're dealing with a completely different person. And if you truly want the apology to work, you have to put yourself in their shoes. You have to see things through their lens. You have to feel what they feel, hear what they hear, see what they see. That is what empathy is. We talk about that all the time. And if you can actually do that and then articulate that to your partner, like, you know what, I thought about it. I thought about how you probably feel in this situation. And listen, babe, I genuinely apologize. I'm sorry.
Apology accepted.
You see
But
that?
you know, I used to tell my husband and even my children that sometimes you can even avoid the apology if you would just put yourself in that other person's shoes beforehand and see things through their eyes and see how it's going to make you feel if they did it. That at that point in time can eliminate a whole lot of hurt.
So true. So true. That's one way to avoid actually having to say it. There's a couple comments that I'm going to go to. One is from Cassandra. She says, your punishment, for lack of better words, would be that the person having to live with the choice that he or she made, even after forgiveness and apologies are accepted. That's a heavy load. You know, it's interesting because the question then becomes, Tiffany asked, can you explain how to impose those punishments? We were talking about there's got to be a punishment and reward system. I don't think I knew how to enforce them. And I promise you that we're going to do a show dedicated to what punishment looks like when there is a violation in the relationship. But for now, just hold on to the word boundary.
Yes.
Right? When you put proper boundaries, not just in your relationship, but in your life, and you begin to show up different and respond different, then that really is a form of punishment, if you will. Once again, we're not talking about seeking hurt and harm and danger on your partner. We're not talking about evening the score. We're not talking about a tit for tat. You did to me, so I'm going to do for you. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about putting certain boundaries in place to curb and change behavior so that these violations do not happen again. Someone else said, so many times I couldn't say sorry, and never felt like I would be heard or ignored. My emotional connect. Then another comment comes from Deanna. If they refuse answers to your questions, does it mean that there's more secrets than they want to reveal, or is it just shame? Because my husband gets very angry if I want answers to unanswered questions. That's a whole different topic, but I mean, just to quickly address it, it could be a form of shame and guilt. It could be things that they don't want to reveal. It could be an incalculable number of reasons. And I think many people do similar things for different reasons, and to properly assess what it is would be important so that we could not only properly diagnose it, but then come up with a strategy and a solution to solve it.
Or they just can't articulate it. They really just cannot. They know why they did something, and they just can't figure out how to explain it to you that you would understand. Or they feel as though if they try to explain it to you, then it's just going to cause either more hurt to you, or it's going to trickle down to something else. Like, do they feel safe enough to say, I'm sorry, and I did this because of A, B, C, and D, and you're going to receive it? Or is there going to be some type of consequence to it?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, guys, this is a good conversation. Your comments are coming in, and I'm loving them. What we're going to do is go to a quick break right quick, and we'll jump into the other points of what is necessary for an effective apology. Stay tuned. I'm just jamming to the music. Man.
I was like, okay.
I'm loving the beats up in here. Listen, guys, we're talking about you cheated. When sorry just isn't enough, what are you going to do in addition to your sorry to make amends to your partner so healing can come and restoration can become a reality? We were talking about certain points, and we're just going to go right into the next point. Go ahead, Jewel.
Write down the reason why it's important to make amends. Number one on the list should always be a variant of they're worth it. So how about when you're sitting there and you're trying to make amends and you're writing down, what that should basically look like is you're sorry should be explaining to that spouse, hey, you are worth the apology. What I've done to hurt you, I want you to know that it wasn't nothing against you. It was nothing that you did. I am willing to fight for this. I am willing for us to be one again. I am willing to do whatever it takes. So that at that point allows that spouse to know that you're sorry isn't just some words. And that what you did, you want to rectify so that they are secure again.
Yeah. And why is that important?
Well, it's important in order for me to trust you again.
Okay.
It's important for me
Talking to Mike.
I'm sorry. It's important for me to want to forgive. It's important for me to understand so that we can work through these things together. It's important so that when the next time something happens, that I'm sorry won't even be there because you have already solidified that, you know, my worthiness to you as your spouse is more important than what was done.
Wow. And taking time to reflect and journal and have thoughts are so critically important, because when you do apologize, it seems more sincere, more well thought out, and it doesn't seem like just cheap words thrown in the atmosphere. You know, it really penetrates the heart, and it makes a significant difference for the one who's hopefully accepting the apology. And that leads to the next one. You know, you have to decide what it will take to make up for the damage that was done. Because, you know, as we're suggesting, to say I'm sorry and even to give an explanation takes a moment or two. Now, it may take you some time to get to that moment, but once you have that moment, remember we said that's the beginning of the process. Now the real work begins. So I've got to once again demonstrate that I'm willing to make changes and shifts in certain areas so that the apology is authentic. Sometimes, you know, when we talk about, well, what is it going to take? Well, for some, time. It's going to take time. Now, I'm not giving the hurt or the offended spouse a legal pass to push pause on life, to stay stuck, and to justify why weeks, months, years can go by before they forgive, because that's not healthy, and that'll bring about more destruction in the relationship. But if you've really done something to forgive me at 10 o'clock, then you come back at 10:15 and apologize, I still may need some time to deal. Like, think about people who get into an argument. Some people have the ability to quickly rebound in minutes. Some they need hours, some they need a day. Now, listen, for those of you who, I need a week and I'm not talking to my spouse, and you know, it's quiet in here and we don't engage and we shut down and like, that's just unhealthy.
Yeah, that's not healthy.
Right. Because at the end of the day, Jewel, like, you need time, but the question is, what are you doing with that time? Because time is neutral. You know, time doesn't heal all wounds. That's not true. It's what you do with the time that will allow you to heal all wounds. Time can make things worse if you're not proactive with that time. But for some, it takes time. So what does it take? Well, sometimes you don't know what it'll take until you experience it. Sometimes you're going to have to ask your spouse, listen, I've said I'm sorry. I really mean it. But what do you need me to do to further drive the point home that I'm truly genuinely sorry and willing to regain your trust? Sometimes the answer comes from your spouse.
Yes. And keep in mind that spouse, sometimes you would hear, you know, a husband could or a wife could articulate that, and the spouse would be like, I don't know. You have to know. You have to put some thought into it as well.
That is a good point.
Because what happens is they then try to figure out what it is that you need. And then in a matter of time, you're like, that's not what I needed. That's not what I wanted. But they came to you and they asked you, you know, what can I do?
Yeah.
Tell me how I can rectify this. They're asking you what's going to work for you.
Yeah.
And if you just say, I don't know, and you leave it up to them, then when they don't get it right, you can't blame them.
We're going to have to take a pause. That's a bomb drop right there. That is a bomb drop, because I can't tell you how real that situation is when we talk to spouses and they're like, I don't know what I want. I'm not sure what I want. I'm not sure what I need.
Exactly.
And it's so, and sometimes, to be quite honest, and I've shared this in times past, and I was referencing a particular client, but this happens for many, you don't want to move on. You want to be stuck. You want to be mad. You don't want to release. You don't want to let go. And so you keep moving the goalpost. You keep moving it. So once your spouse does something to rectify it, there you go, moving it again, right? And it's like, if you keep moving it, then no matter what he or she does, they'll never get to a place where they've been redeemed and reconciliation can take place. And so sometimes the person who keeps the marriage in a bad place is the offended one who's willing to take responsibility for him or herself to begin to move forward. So that's an excellent point.
You know, I think when you said they keep moving the goal and they keep moving it, they're moving it because they still themselves don't know what it's going to take to rectify this situation. So I'm going to keep pushing it back because I'm still not feeling it. I'm going to keep pushing it back. I'm still not feeling it.
Right.
Well, you need to sit down yourself and think about what is it going to take so you can feel it.
Yes. Joel, man, I tell you, that hit it. But that requires doing some necessary work. And I think what happens is, if we're in a relationship and you offended me, You're responsible for doing the work. You need to figure it out. You need to do something to address my pain. And that's true, you do. But I've also got to get up off my shoulders, and I've got to do some heavy lifting, and I got to go into a journey of self-discovery. And this is why Unearthed is so important, because there's so many spouses that have been just trampled on by their spouse's behaviors, and they're such in a broken and fragmented state that their spouse can't do everything or be everything for them.
Exactly.
There's things that you have to do for yourself. And when you get that clarity, not just clarity, but certainty, because that's what we're all in search for, certainty. When you have a sense of certainty, then you can articulate to your spouse, you know what, this is what I need. And now it empowers the spouse to do exactly what's necessary to get to the end result, because they are aware. If you don't know, how can your spouse know? And that's the problem. You expect your spouse to know what you don't know.
And, you know, to be honest and be truly transparent, that's where I was. You know, for 2 years, my husband and I tried to fix this because I could not articulate to him what it was that I needed for him to do to fix it. And then when I was able to do it, it went just like that.
But here's the question. How did you figure it out? Because to your own point, you weren't there, you didn't know. How long did it take you, and what did you do to get to that answer so you could articulate it to him?
Well, it took 2 years before Couples Academy. You know, and, you know, we went to Audacity of Marriage, we came to the retreats, we did, you know, some master classes, but we did the work. And not just the work as a couple, we did the individual work. And that individual work showed me that I have a voice that I can use that is not detrimental to my relationship.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so I hope you're hearing this, like she's literally giving you the pathway. Now, not to say that it should take 2 years. This was before Couples Academy. And many of you are part of the community and you're getting this rich information, but what happens is it's in one ear and out the other.
Well,
like,
you know, it was 2 years because we just thought we can do it by ourselves.
See that?
It wasn't the fact that, you know, we just figured, you know, we can do this by ourselves. You know, we grown. You know, we've been to church. We went to different ministries for this and this minute. We read this, we read that. Sometimes you need more than that.
You need more.
Lot more.
It requires more. That's why we say there's no silver bullet. We're going to go through a couple more. Number one, make a plan of action to implement your repentance, which is critically important. So now that you know what it takes, now you have to make a plan to repent. Now, repentance, what does that mean? That means to make a turn, a 180-degree turn and go in the opposite direction. This is where the change comes in. It's not just I'm sorry, but the sorry is I'm attached to a changed behavior.
Yes, definitely.
And when you do that, that's when your spouse knows. So it's like, how can I believe you're sorry? You've been saying it and saying it and saying it and saying it. Yeah, but I haven't been doing anything. Now I'm willing to do, and now my doing is my demonstration along with my saying I'm sorry, which is my articulation. So you see how you need both? Articulation and demonstration leads to transformation. Look at that. I'm a poet and didn't know. You know what?
But look, when you are demonstrating, don't demonstrate just to appease that spouse. Don't demonstrate to the degree where, okay, now she's good, I can go back to doing what I was doing.
Right.
Do it and continue doing it.
That's right.
Because what's going to happen is I knew you didn't mean it because you turned around and did it again.
Yeah. And I think that leads to the next point, Jewel. It's do what you say you're going to do and don't break the promise. And I think that's exactly what happens. We do what we say we're going to do for a period of time, and then once the coast is clear, then we go back to this behavior. And we say things like, well, we're good now. I don't have to do what I did to get to this good place. I can revert back and I can ease up. I can let it go. You did it for the wrong motive. And so that's the thing, Joe. Like, I'm going to do this for your benefit. I'm going to do this because that's what you want. I'm going to do this to make you happy. Like when I hear, particularly men, I hear men say this a lot. Whatever makes you happy, babe. Whatever makes you happy.
I just want to move on.
I just want to move on. I just want to make you happy. And I'm like, that's the worst reason, because your motivation is your spouse. But what happens when your spouse, once again, gets on your first and last nerves and you're no longer motivated to do for her or him? Your motivation's got to be internal, intrinsic, because if it's not about what I need to make me a better person and you benefit from that, then the good thing that I'm doing is going to be temporal. It's not going to last. And I think that's the point.
Yes. Your penance should be the fact that you want to better yourself so that this doesn't happen again. Period. It's just, I want to be better for me.
Right.
You benefit from this.
Right. Right. Guys, I hope you're getting this. I hope this is making sense, because when you begin to implement these things in your relationship as it relates to any offense that has occurred, it puts you in a much better position to find restoration within your relationship. I know that the chat is blowing up. There's so many. Oh man, what we're going to do, guys, because we're going to do part 2 of this conversation tomorrow, but people are really chiming in with what you're saying and saying, oh my God, Drew, you're making excellent points. We're going to continue this conversation. There's more points that we're going to get to because we really want you to get it. So thanks for tuning in to the Couples Academy show. We'll see you in the morning for part 2 of this conversation. Take care.